The life of climate heroes, insights and inspirations on launching and scaling startups. The next panel will feature climate heroes who will share their insights and inspirations on launching and scaling startups. We will hear from founders who will discuss the market opportunities they see and the challenges they have overcome. This panel will be moderated by Carla Berman, a seasoned executive with extensive experience in technology in Latin America. She has held leadership roles at companies like Google and SoftBank, driving innovation and scaling operations across the region. Carla is also a member of Dalus Investment Committee, and she is our favorite shark in Shark Tank Mexico. Please help me in welcoming Carla and the rest of the panelists to the stage.
So they told us we need to speak in English. So I guess the first question is going to be, what was your TOEFL score? No, it's a joke. Not a very good one, apparently. Okay, so thank you so much. I'm Carla Berman. I'm part of the investment committee of Dalus, and I'm very excited to be here today. And I have amazing entrepreneurs here. So before we start, I want to ask them to each give you a 30-second speech of who they are and what their company is all about. So ladies first, Carla. Tocaya.
Hola, hola. Okay, hi, thank you everybody. I'm Carla Escobedo, I'm co-founder of Biosora. Biosora is a climate tech company where we're specialized in the production of biochar carbon removal. And well, actually this, so we transform agricultural waste into biochar, and how we use it is to restore the tropical soils in the agricultural space and to permanently sequester CO2. Currently, we are the largest biochar facility in East Africa and trying to put one feet in Latam, specifically in Mexico. Thank you.
Amazing. And she told me that now she doesn't carry lip gloss anymore, she just carries her biochar everywhere she goes, which I thought was amazing. Millie.
Hi everyone, I'm Millie, I'm CEO and co-founder at Bexel. Basically, what we do is we are empowering plants to decide when to take inputs. For us, the chemical problem in agriculture is not only the chemical itself, it's also how we are applying those chemicals. So we developed a nano capsule that is like a pill, but really, really small, invisible to human eyes, that contains sensors. It's a biological nano capsule, and those sensors are able to identify different pathogens like viruses, bacteria, or fungi, or environmental conditions as pH, UV radiation, humidity, and only open and deliver the input when it's needed. We are currently about to start selling in Mexico next year, and we are doing several pilots, not only here, but also in the US. Thank you.
Amazing.
Hi.
It really sounds like science fiction. And, like you have this little capsule, right?
But I swear it's true.
It's amazing. Tomás.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Tomás Ulloa. I'm from Chile. I'm co-founder of Reuse. Reuse is a B2B platform that helps retail companies to resell all their inverse logistic products and sell them through an e-commerce channel in Chile, Peru, and Mexico.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicolas Bodeca. I'm co-founder and CEO at Bono. Bono is a platform that helps companies measure their carbon footprint, develop decarbonization strategies, and then we connect them with the solutions and the financing they need to make them happen.
Cool. So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys is, what motivated you to start business in this space? You know, it's not now we hear a lot more about climate and still, but you know, Latin America, we're lagging a little bit behind. And so what motivated you to start up shop in this space?
I think for me today, I just realized, thank you to Arena, which was the name, but it was the eco anxiety. I have a financial background, completely working in investment banking and risk management, but then I still have the urge to go into something that was actually helping the planet. And I have the fortune while doing my MBA to meet my amazing co-founder and founding that we have like very common ground in terms of wanting to do something in climate, also food security, and we started like crafting this idea. Both of us were part of the corporate world. She was working in consulting, I was working in banking, so we decided to take a leap of faith to start this venture, and there's where we are. And the anxiety is going down a little by little.
And Nico?
Well, I studied sustainable development engineering at college. So since I was little, I have been always in love with animals, and I wanted to do something that helped them. I started my career by working in energy companies, and then rapidly decided to kind of move towards helping companies eliminate knowledge barriers and economical barriers that exist today in Latin American companies, so they can actually start progressing and reducing their emissions and basically creating an ecosystem within industry, sustainable technologies, and financial institutions, because only together we can stop climate change. So I've been, since little, always had this connection to the world, and I wanted to dedicate my passion towards these opportunities.
What about you, Millie?
Well, in my case, it was a little bit different because it was a Disney movie who inspired me when I was 11 years old. I watched a Disney movie about ecosystem and all the stuff, and I literally in that movie thinking we're gonna die because it was like explaining how the water and different things works. So when I finished that movie, I went to the library of my school and started reading about science, water. I studied business, but I almost have a PhD on water because I was so obsessed with that. And then I started my entrepreneur life when I was 17 years old. And 1.5 years ago, I noticed that I was making a startup in something I really don't care at all, because I say, why I'm not doing what I really want to do, that is helping to do something to make the planet a safer place. So I started Bexel, that is like my dream that from an 11-year-old girl. Yes.
And Thomas, your journey was a little bit different. You sort of bumped into climate.
Yeah, actually, I started when I was at the last year of college with my partner. We started Reuse because we saw an opportunity to make money for us and to sell electronic devices, because we were good at actually changing screens and doing repairs. But then, on the pass of the year, we saw a clear path in circular economy to help big companies, retail companies, to help them to join this path and also to make profit in this way. So now we're like focusing on how we can help these companies to be part of the circular economy.
And coming from the other side of sort of the spectrum, and not that you didn't care about climate initially, but that wasn't what you were looking after. How has being in these and learning about circular economy and reducing carbon footprints and all of that, how has that changed the DNA of the business?
I think one of the biggest challenges was when we tried to be a B Corp company. We did that around 3 years ago. The company has more than 6 years, so it was in the middle of when we start. And you see that even though we were involved in the circular economy project, we didn't we didn't be aware of the real problem of other areas in the company. And now everyone that is in the team, it's always thinking how to be more like helping the planet, and not only the profits, and also how to help the environment.
That's very interesting. Now I wanted to ask you about market trends. Like what trends are you observing in the market right now, and how are they different from, let's say, most of your startups are really, really young, but still from 2 years ago, in terms of climate and green technology and all of these?
I used to work for a really big energy company, and there I had the opportunity to work with big industry players that are able to purchase renewable energy in general from private companies in Mexico. And there I definitely saw a trend from companies that wanted the cheapest energy possible, which is usually combined cycle of natural gas, towards renewable energies, right? So I would say it begins with energy, because most of the times it's the easiest thing to do, and solar energy costs are going down rapidly every year. So that's definitely the beginning for most companies to start this journey towards decarbonization. But we are also seeing that there's a lot of problems that don't have solutions just yet. So there's exploration in green hydrogen, which I truly believe is a really nice solution, and many other solutions that actually need to be explored and financed by and used by big corporations in order for them to reach a level that is interesting. But yeah, I would say I would focus on energy and hydrogen.
Yes, also I think that there are some new regulations and governments pushing companies to change. And when companies are being pushed to change, there are a lot of opportunity there because there is a lot of money that those companies or like the market start putting on those kinds of solutions. So like thanks God, companies now are more interested in these kind of climate change companies. So I think that a lot of these new trends came because these new regulations that are being pushing new markets and creating new markets too. So I think that's something super important.
And in particular in Latin America, do you see, like, what are the differences that you see for this ecosystem in Latin America versus other parts of the world? I think that you have like a foot in each continent, so.
No, I think I personally, I think like LATAM is a little bit in the middle. Like I think obviously like worldwide there is like a lot of tailwinds that are pushing towards the like more climate solutions. But I think overall there is like a need of more innovative financial products to support this type of technologies. And like we always said, like I'm specifically like speaking about carbon removal technologies, that I will be the happiest person on earth if there is like one type of technology where we can remove carbon by clicking or by a software. But unfortunately that's not the case. Like most of us that are trying to develop and try to remove carbon from the planet, we need assets. So I think, I mean, we need to be more like innovative. And I think Europe, for example, we've been seeing like a lot more of nascent like types of products that are more like, I don't know, carbon financing, which we love to have this in Mexico in the near future, which are actually supporting developers to reach their targets. And once that they will be like a P type of company, but there's like definitely like a bridge that we need to surpass. And I mean, we need the support of all the ecosystem, which is like the digital solutions, the certificators, which is something very new, like it's a nascent industry where we definitely need everybody to be on board, and like we're definitely partner-led, and the alliances that we can shape even between among us like will be like very crucial for the success.
And what do you think are the challenges? And I know you have had the experience on non-climate and on-climate. What are the specific challenges that you see in terms of fundraising when it comes to climate tech?
Well, I'm not only climate tech, but I'm biotech, so I have like an extra thing there, an extra difficult in Latin America. Maybe because still we don't have like success cases that makes VCs are not like, don't have that fear or another stuff. But when you are from Latin America and you have a capital intensive company and you have biotech, so you have R&D, and as Teresa said some minutes ago, there is time in order to go to market. And a lot of VCs ask for traction, here, because of how I understand the thesis and all the stuff. So when you're from Latin America and you have biotech company, the difficulty is that from the US, you are still early, because in the US, most of biotech companies have money on grants. So they go to the VCs when they already have $4 million maybe on grants. And from Latin America, you are too early because you are not having traction. So you as a founder, you have to know that are the rules of the game, so you have to play with those. So for example, in our case, what we did is trying to, and using like my mind from B2B SaaS, saying, okay, we need to generate a kind of MVP and see how we can hack the system to go to the market as soon as possible. So that's what we did. And that's why with only 1 year, we're gonna have a product next year on the market. But it's that, you have to understand, and it's quite complex because you don't have access to those grants because Latin America is not mature like that. There are some, like for example, catalysts that help us a lot. We are one of the catalyst companies. Also, yes, thanks Catalyst. We are also part of Redex that is supporting the ecosystem a lot. But yeah, Yeah, I'm really thankful for them because they are really supporting the ecosystem. But yes, it's part of the game. You have to show traction. That's the most difficult thing when you are in climate.
So I guess it's very interesting because what you're saying is, in Latin America there's a void, basically, because it would be interesting to understand why don't we have access to those grants, but I guess a lot of them are given through universities and things like that in the US. And then funds in LATAM are not used to, and I don't think they have the mandate to invest in pre-revenue companies.
Yes,
so you're like
exactly.
stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yes, and also like maybe, for example, now we are raising money like $2 million in a pre-revenue company. So probably like for a fintech or a B2B SaaS, like that amount of money in pre-revenue, maybe it's like a lot, But for us, it's what we need in order to go to market. So that's also like the tickets, the stages, the regulations that we need. Even if you have a product, we need regulations. So there is like a gap there.
Absolutely. I think that's where building not only your company but being part of an ecosystem and these type of gatherings, associations, peer groups, etc., really come into play because one company alone cannot do it. No. Any other experiences in the fundraising aspect?
I mean, I would just ask that sometimes when you start working with big companies, they also take a long time to implement things. So you have this pressure maybe for investors or for your own KPIs because you want to grow, because you have a short runway, because you have a few months of life, and you really want to prove that you can actually make something that's worth. But at the same time, it takes time because most of the times climate tech companies are focusing on changing how things are usually done. We come from an economy where first world countries used fossil fuels to develop and to be at the stage where they are today, and what we want to achieve is to kind of help Latin America to develop the clean way. So it takes time, and sometimes investors don't really see that.
Yeah. Fundraising. I think everybody here who's interested in fundraising. Everyone. Oh, yeah. Any pearls of wisdom that you can share?
Yeah, no, as I mentioned, I think sometimes like our solutions might not be like the perfect fit to like more generalist or traditional like VCs or pools of capital, but like don't be discouraged. There are other pools of capital that can be accessed for these type of solutions. So I think that's very encouraging, and I think like the industry is moving to that part. I think in the carbon space specifically, there's corporates putting money, not as corporate VCs, but as sustainability like initiatives where they pre-finance carbon initiatives. I don't know, like there's like Microsoft where they already have like a 50 people sustainability team which are assessing carbon projects on a daily basis because they really want to hit their targets. So we now are like try to be and push to be more innovative and where to look for capital, and I think that's positive. And I think like the banks and the more traditional like capital providers will sooner or later like reach the levels and will be there. So let's have hope on that. But yeah, that's been my experience personally.
So that across the corporations, and then also you mentioned backstage that you also received like you received funds from. Why don't you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, actually, I mean, speaking about grant money, I mean, there is a lot of like initiatives. Like we currently, I'll speak for three that we really are proud of, which is we're winners of X Prize from Elon Musk Foundation. We're also winners of Killing Curve Prize and Mulago Fellowship. So those are some of the examples of grant money that you can access, where obviously it's not only about the money, because it's also about like smart money and people that really have the same mindset towards the climate. So yeah, I know like grant application always sounds like a very tough part, and it's tough and it's very time consuming. But at the end of the day, I think it's like it's another pool of capital that we have to take advantage of, and this is for profit companies, no? Because sometimes we say, okay, R&D, nobody likes to fund R&D because it can fail or it can succeed, no? But then like some grant money for profit companies that can actually like make a change, which is actually doing for us.
Very good. I wanted to ask you about collaborating with corporate. You talked a little bit about getting money from corporate, but I want to also understand what else are you guys doing in terms of collaborating with big companies. I know there's a very, very big trend about open innovation and how can companies collaborate with startups for a bunch of objectives. I think one of them is like to, inject new energy, be more agile, also, think outside of the box and see new solutions that maybe cannot be bred inside of a large corporation. But what are you seeing there? And if you can tell us a little bit about your experiences doing that, I would like to start with Nico.
Thank you, Carla. Well, we've been very lucky, definitely. When we started, we closed a deal with ABM, Grupo Modelo, to measure and decarbonize their emissions on the supply chain. So we, from the start, already had customers in over 9 countries of Latin America. And it was an amazing experience for us because we had the ability to talk to different types of companies, being glass, paper, cardboard, or raw materials as well, corn, sugar, etc., and really learn from the pains that the users or these providers have in terms of the product we were developing. So from the very early, we had that opportunity to really learn about the users and to build something that was basically built for Latin America. So that was amazing. And we've also had some other opportunities to collaborate with big corporations. For example, we were part of an accelerator in Rockstart in Colombia, and we even started some pilots with big companies there over the world, like Colombia, ISA, Sura, and some others. So it's been really nice to be able to work with innovation teams inside big corporations and also kind of help them structure a sustainability team inside their own companies, because I think Carla already mentioned it, but most of the companies in Latin America just yet don't have a sustainability team, so they have lack of knowledge on the topic. So it's been great to kind of help them and their supply chains navigate through this tough path. It's great to have those types of early customers.
So I have two follow-up questions on that. One is, should every company be thinking of having their sustainability team? And if so, why and what should they do? And then another question. Tell us about that first company that you worked for, and this is for all of you. Like, I think the first sale is the hardest one. So what was it how did you approach it, and how did you get your foot in the door, and what do you think made you successful in retrospect?
Okay, so your first question, we definitely, it's always important to be talking to these customers, and it's been a wild road. But at the beginning, we didn't have a product, right? These big companies need to have sustainability areas, definitely, because it's the future.
Why?
It's not the future; it's the present. It's to have a competitive advantage. Today, decarbonization is linked to efficiency. Efficiency reduces costs. And that's what they want at the end of the day. These companies, of course, are focused on revenue, and sustainability can take them to those revenue goals faster and be more competitive, et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely a way to go. It will take time. Of course, today we're working with big corporations, and they're looking into implementing sustainability KPIs for their suppliers, which is important because that will reduce their own costs in the supply chain. So that's definitely something they need to do, but also because of the climate risks that are out there. The only way that we can address climate change is by working together. So all companies should be looking at this soon, because if not, they will have no business in the future to actually do something about it.
So let me turn this back to you guys, and I'm just being provocative here. Who here thinks that every company should have a sustainability area as of yesterday? Okay, so I'm preaching to the choir. We are in the Climate Innovation Summit, right? But who doesn't? Is there any dissonant voice? Somebody that says, actually, I don't think so. Can you tell us why? I just want to hear. Like, maybe you just don't believe in global warming, but no es cierto. But like, why don't you think that they should have a dedicated sustainability area? Any other perspective?
Yes, I think that sustainability needs to be very
So for everybody that couldn't hear, I think that's a little bit where I wanted to go. So what he says is that sustainability should be something that has capabilities all across the organization. Like each project, just as they have to, ¿cómo se dice? Demonstrate their financial ability, they probably have to demonstrate like their sustainability measures as well. And I tend to think like that as well. I also know that when companies are so big, this takes a while. So it's a little bit like the digital area, no? First, we had to have digital areas in companies, and now most good companies, at least that's what I think, are getting rid of those digital areas because they're building digital capabilities into every single area. But yeah, interesting. Okay, and so the second question, which I think is very interesting, and everybody here will probably want to know, is what was it that made that first, collaboration with a big company possible? Who wants to start? Yeah, and if you are already collaborating with large companies, si quieres, Tomás.
In our case was Falabella. Falabella is a big retail in South America. They were having a big problem because there was a new law passing in South America, especially in Colombia, Chile, and Peru, the REP law, that forced them to take away out of the market a percentage of what they were selling. So they start, before the law was passed, to try to do an alliance with companies that will help them to take out of the market these products and try to reuse these products or recycle these products. That was our case.
But how is it that you were positioned? Like, what do you think made them choose you versus other companies?
In our case, because we were offering a better solution for them, and for us, was like the big opportunity to work with a company that has presence in more than one country. And we saw that opportunity to scale. And at the beginning, we were saying yes to everything that they were asking us to do. Of course, some of those yes were impossible to do. But they saw us like a flexible company for them. And that's why they choose us.
Any downside, any disadvantages of working with large companies that you would like make sure that everybody keep in mind when they do?
Yes, sometimes they go really slow, sometimes they go really fast, and when they go really fast, they think that they're working with a big company, but we're a startup that, of course, doesn't have unlimited money, and to try to follow the rhythm that sometimes they're looking for is really hard, and sometimes it's impossible, actually.
Great. Carla, you want to give us your experience?
Yeah, I think one of our first clients, it was Coffee Management Services, which is one of the largest exporters of coffee in Kenya. It's part of Econ Group. And I think the success for us with them, it was they were actually procuring biochar for their crops. So taking a little bit out of the part of the carbon, which is the mitigation part, going more for the adaptation part. So I think it was we were providing like a very good product, and where I'm leading to this is like, I think companies and corporates are not ready to pay for a green premium, or a sustainability premium. I think we need to be innovative enough and cheap enough to help them transition it into more sustainable agro inputs, ingredients, support, because I think that's the only way to actually move as fast as we need it. So we were providing like good products, good price. So they took a leap of faith with us, like incorporating our products in one of their farms, and now it's like our best success story with them, like increasing the crop yield and so many other parameters from the plant. So I think like that was very, very crucial for us, because they're like benchmark in the industry, in the country. And obviously validates like the quality and what we want to achieve in terms of the agricultural space. But what I think is most important that I want to highlight is the sustainability or the green premium, that I think it's very naive if we as entrepreneurs, because I was thinking about that back before, right? Like, of course I will pay more for a compostable bag, but maybe you're 1 in a million, like nobody else is gonna pay more. So you have to do it cheaper or equally cost efficient, otherwise like we are destined to bankrupt.
I want to come back to that point, but before that, I know you work a lot with big corporations. So what was the one thing that made you successful at that?
I mean, originally, when we started, I didn't have even a co-founder, so I had to go out and find another platform to test that technology in Mexico. So I found some guys in Turkey that already had a carbon accounting software, and I kind of built a company. I incorporated a company, built a webpage, and started like seeking sustainability people in Mexico to see if they were willing to purchase the product I wanted to build. At the end of the day, suddenly, this big company says, okay, I want a quotation, we quote it. We went to a second phase of quoting, and then the sustainability leader calls me, I was on vacation actually, and says, okay, Nico, we are kind of ready to move forward with you, but I mean, you're one guy. What can you tell me to give me to
I
give
buy
you that?
a software from Turkey and then I resell it to you, right?
Yeah, they already saw the software, of course. They didn't know it wasn't mine. But I said, basically, if you give us this project, I'll quit my full-time job on Monday, because they already knew I was in another company. So they said, all right, let's do it. And that was a nice story. Yeah.
Now, back to your point, how do you all balance sustainability with profitability? And how do you measure that? I want to start with the least common subject here. So, Tomás, like, do you think about sustainability all the time? Are you actively measuring it? I know one of my favorite companies in the world is The Real Real. Anyone know The Real Real here? Favorite company too? So this is like a second-hand circular economy for luxury items in the US. But they have a really cool sustainability calculator. So every time you buy a dress, it tells you, you're saving so much carbon and so many liters of water. And I actually went through, like, I looked through it because I wanted to see if this was just like a marketing gimmick or it was actually based on something. And they have a really cool, like, university paper. They have green consultants behind it. So they take it very seriously. So I want to understand, but obviously that costs them a lot of money. So I want to understand, like, you're a startup, you're balancing everything that you need to do. You have very lean teams. You are, low on cash probably. So how do you balance sustainability versus profitability?
So in our case, of course, we measure the impact, but we have been doing A/B testing if our consumers really like that and if they care about this. The problem is that the results here in Latin America, especially, I mean, in Peru, Mexico, and Chile, is that they don't really care about this footprint. They prefer that the quality of the product is the best one, that the price is the lower one, and of course, in the face of the consumer, we focus on those things. But of course, we're measuring because we know in a few years the customers, they are going to care about this. That's why, of course, all our boxing are from recycled materials, and all our processes try to be as clean as possible. But the difference between the US, Europe, probably is that the consumer, the massive consumer, doesn't really care about this.
Yet,
of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else?
I can. In our case, we are, like, for example, working encapsulating chemicals and biologicals for pilots with big corporations too. And even big corporations need to make a reduction on chemicals and to empower biologicals. In agriculture, you need to be super careful about margins because it's an industry where margins are extremely important. So for us, knowing that we are going into agriculture first and then moving into another industries, we need to understand since the very beginning how we can be profitable. Like, our product need to make reduction on cost for them. That was the only way to go really fast and on conversations. So for us was to understand how was our process, like when we start the company, and make it even more, efficient in every aspect, like literally every aspect. So for example, now we're having a cost reduction for them of 60%. So that was how we do that. And we have a really good margins because our process is really scalable. So we really need to do that since the very beginning, because even if you're having an amazing technology that sounds like science fiction, if you are expensive, nobody is gonna be on you, So you need to also think about who is gonna buy you. So that's the most important thing.
Great. I think we can open it up to questions from the audience. I think, because, por favor, can somebody help us with a microphone, or can you just yell? So the question was, if they could ask for one thing out of this ecosystem, what would they each choose or ask for?
Trust.
¿Cómo en qué?
I mean, at Bono, we tried to raise around second semester 2023, and I pitched to over 50 VCs, and most of them said, I love your project, your company's amazing, you don't have enough traction, no? Which was kind of, I mean, they said, yeah, keep us in your investor updates, and we'd love to talk to you again in the future, no? So then we were lucky, and we closed a lot of customers that kind of allowed us to continue operating, hiring people, etc. And finally, some funding came in. But yeah, I sometimes believe they're looking at climate tech as any other vertical in startups. So sometimes you just need a little bit more of trust to yeah, that's basically it.
I mean, I just want to play the other side, and it's not only trust. I think you addressed it very well. I think there is a void in the path of fundraising for a startup in climate, because the path of getting to revenue, it's just a little bit different. No? Very interesting. Tomás?
For me, for example, I'm from Chile, so it has been really difficult my first year here in Mexico, because of course it's really different. So probably networking will be the best one.
Maybe?
Yes, I'm 100% with them. I think trust is the most important thing for our ecosystem. And in order everyone just, I think it's a really good word because it has everything inside. But, if all of us just give a little bit more, and also like even, for example, I mean, there's a lot of funds here and funds that invest in different verticals. And we can make a lot of consolidation between those verticals, and we can have a really good access to a lot of things. I think that's even a way to go fast to traction if we can implement everything together. Traction with impact, but trust is the most important thing.
Carla?
Yeah, I think I will be less romantic and like for
money.
me, like
She doesn't care about trust.
I'm definitely looking for partners for expanding our operations in Mexico. So if you are like a food producer which is willing to try biochar solution to decarbonize your companies, or if you are like an enabler, like willing to buy carbon removal credits, like reach out. I think for us I mean, we need support from these ecosystem, and that's the thing. Obviously, I resonate with all of you. I think we've been there, and like you have my shoulder.
Great. Other questions?
I'm still stuck with the question that you asked about sustainable department. What do you think, or what do you guys think as well, when... ¿La vuelvo a repetir? Okay. Sticking with the sustainable department, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think? Well, I think that's different for previous companies like Coca-Cola, that they're really big, that they have to change their business models to being sustainable now, and to companies like us who are born trying to be sustainable. So how do you is for companies being born sustainable, do you need to be or to have a sustainable department, or is your whole business model already sustainable? And can you work with that?
So, I mean, this is a very personal opinion. I think that, no, you should have it in your DNA, but I don't think the age of the company is necessarily correlated with if sustainability is in their DNA or no. I mean, we have a lot of companies nowadays that are just 2-3-year-old companies. I don't want to point any fingers, but you probably are wearing a lot of clothes that are marketed by them, and that not necessarily have sustainability at the top of their minds, no? So I think, yes, when companies are born sustainable, that should be imprinted in their DNA, but I don't think necessarily every single young company has a sustainability in their DNA.
Can I say something? Yeah. No, sorry, I wanted to say something like, I don't think like all companies need to have like a sustainable team, but I think all companies need to have a sustainability budget. So that's like which is different. Like you don't need to do the job, but you just have to allocate resources to that.
And sustainability objectives, probably.
Exactly, and like everybody needs to be hitting SBTI targets, and everybody needs to hit net zero by 2030, and that needs money. That's it. So you don't need to do it by yourself because there might be other people that does it better, but definitely you need to allocate resources for that if you really want to transition it.
Could we just say this is a sustainability mindset then for the entrepreneurs? This is where I'm trying to get this. New entrepreneurs need to have the sustainability mindset to be able to grow now. Is that, Carla, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I think not only entrepreneurs, I think companies should have a sustainability mindset, no? Because you can have the best sustainability department in the world, and if the CEO doesn't care about it, then, it's just a nice little office, no? With a lot of green things.
Yes, and one more thing. There is not only about sustainability department, like those big companies have R&D departments. For example, Bayer fired most of half of that department because they're doing open innovation with companies. So they need to change the product because there's new regulations, they must. So, for example, Coca-Cola is too much into, I don't know if someone, Coca-Cola is like too much into making reduction on sugar or fats, because of the new logos. So, they must. And it's not only sustainability department, it's also R&D. And they are doing that because they must do that. Maybe they won't, but they must.
And I would just like to add also that probably if you start working with big companies, they will start requiring you for sustainability KPIs when you offer your services. So it's not just something you want to do, it's something you need to do in order to sell your products or services.
In the context that you were talking about, having to develop a new technology, be cheaper than the alternative, go against the status quo, and still be a successful entrepreneur, what would patient capital enable your companies to do? Could you paint us a picture to motivate the investors here?
Can I go first? Okay. In our case, for patient capital, instead of maybe having, there are pros and cons, but instead of having this first MPPI and going and trying to put money in, see how we can hack the system at some point in some market in order to have some traction and to show VCs that we can really make products and sell and all the stuff, we can put all our efforts in our product and create, we are really changing agriculture. In my company, we're changing how agriculture actually works. And in order to make something big, you need time because you have a product that is not software. And I am not against software because I also have another startup before that was software. But it's not software. It's biotech. It's science. It's something that are changing a market, a completely market. So if we have the money in order to make things, how we really need to make things in order to have a great product, we could change the world, to be honest. Or I don't know the word, but agriculture, because we are also working with big companies who are the ones that promote that. So yes, patient capital would help us to have much better product and really solve problems.
Do we have time for one more question? Mon? One more question. One more question. No? Yes? Nadia? Here's one. Sorry?
Yes, but not in Latin, most of them. So when you are not from the US, for example, in our case, when we start our company, we put out, our company is a C Corp on Delaware. So because we know that most of the money that we need is from the US. I have been living in Switzerland 2 months before, and Investors in Europe prefer to invest in Europe. Investors in the US want you to be in the US. And in order to be in the US, you need money. And that money, when you go to the US, those people that are from the US, from Stanford, MIT, or whatever, they have money from grants really easy. When you are from LATAM, that's not true. So, and I don't have anything against LATAM because I'm open my first market here, and I'm talking to a lot of VCs here, and I have really good relationship with them. But it's true, and that's why we are trying to show traction fast, because it's how the market works here. But most of the funds here, they don't have that patient, not because of them, because of the thesis, because of the risk, because of how LATAM works. So it's not because of them, it's because how everything is. That's why I think that we need some success cases in order to have more trust in the ecosystem.
No, I wanted to say something. I think I definitely feel you. For me specifically, like trying to raise money in Africa and LATAM, like and in climate tech and then agri also, I think it's like the funnel just goes narrow and narrow and narrow every time. So it's like once you have like the full bunch of names, like of course you have to be wise who you contact with, and it goes like to very like few names, and obviously there's nothing new. Like someone spoke before, like the availability of liquidity obviously change a lot. The rates are high, they're not coming down. Money is just more expensive, and to fund this type of solutions is also getting more expensive. Returns investors are willing to get better returns. So I think it's getting harder, but I think what I can say is like traditional VCs will never be there for us, and not because they don't believe, it's just because of their investment thesis, and we have to understand that and be like mature enough to say, okay, I'm not contact you anymore, and like trying to target more the real impact ones, which are more patient, like trying to get returns in like a more like, let's say, I don't want to say conservative, but more like a feasible way, like based on the core of the industries we're working around. So, but yeah, I think there is like names because most of us will already found or are finding like funding. So yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of an ecosystem, no? And you know, if this were not a climate innovation summit, but if it was an entrepreneurship summit and it was 15 years ago, I think we would hear exactly the same thing. So I think these type of initiatives are exactly what we need to do so that this ecosystem gets nurtured and grows, and also that we detect some voids that maybe you don't only feel with funds, but you feel with the alliances with universities, with bringing grants from the US, Mexico, etc.
And also, sorry, because what I want to say is, it's different rules. Just you have to play differently. That's it. But you have, in order to be successful, you need to play with the rules you have. So it's just different game, but it's still in the game.
Tomás, Nico, Carla, and Mili, thank you very much. I think you inspired us a lot. You're doing amazing work, and I'm eager to see next year where your companies are at. And I think I'm with all of the people here to wish you a lot of success and to inspire other entrepreneurs in this space.